The story begins with Yuya, sitting in front of the three musketeers who are questioning him about his father. All of them have scars from talking back to their moms, showing that they are not to be messed with. Yuya replies that he doesn't know as he just got home earlier and gives them a letter he found on the table. After reading what's written inside, he ends up tearing it apart, cursing his dad for making a trip to the milk shop. Not only that, but he's more furious at him for leaving his son behind all alone. This reminds Yuya that his father always used to say that one never knows what might happen in life. In hopes of making profit, he always used to jump on the latest trends, which left him broke with a ton of debt. On top of that, Yuya's father was dearly loved by his mother, even though she was known as the neighborhood baddie. Curious, Yuya once asked why she married such a loser, to which his mother replied that it was nice for her to see a failure trying his best just to fail again. This made Yuya realize that his mother was beyond help, and even though he looks up to those who work hard, his father was a different specimen. However, he feels responsible as well for not talking to them about it. In the end, he asks Tekashi how much his father borrowed from him, and Tekashi, realizing that there's no point getting angry at Yuya, replies that it's about 30 million. Apparently, his father kept borrowing money to pay back the money he borrowed, causing the department to increase over time. Apparently, Yuya is not really scared of Tekashi as he has known him since he was young. While Tekashi looks like a filler yakuza from a 90s movie, he's like an older brother to Yuya. Nonetheless, 30 million is a lot, and Yuya's saving is nothing compared to that amount. Following that, Tekashi can't believe that his father ran away abroad and left the rest up to his lawyers. Yuya also remembers when he came home and saw the letter where his dad reassured him that they are going abroad and that everything will be taken care of by his lawyer. Furthermore, Tekashi mentions that Yuya becoming a respectable human being is a miracle when he was given birth by such a couple, and wonders if it's thanks to him, to which Yuya agrees. After that, Yuya asks what he's going to do now, to which Tekashi replies that his boss won't take it lying down this time, and having no other choice, he might have to take Yuya with him. Yuya figures that he might have to deal with his father's debt by playing Minecraft in real life, making him think that it's all over now. However, Tekashi reassures Yuya that he will persuade his boss to have him under his wing and will do everything in his power to make sure Yuya gets to live a proper life. The others agree with Tekashi, telling Yuya not to become like them and live a normal life. With that being said, Tekashi suggests they get going when suddenly, someone starts spamming the doorbell. Yuya hurries to open the door and finds the busty goth girl named Keed standing outside. She lets Yuya know that she's there to help him, but he's too lost staring at her long black hair, perfectly shaped eyes, and a face card so brutal, it gives LeBron James some competition. There's not a single student in his school that doesn't know Keed, as she's a beauty who was chosen as the prettiest schoolgirl in Japan. However, he can't help but wonder how she knows his address, as they have never spoken to each other. Eventually, she asks Yuya what's wrong, as his face is all red, and wondering if he has a fever, she ends up checking it herself, causing him to get even more red. In the end, she concludes that he's a bit feverish and suggests going to the hospital, but Yuya reassures her that he's fine and questions why she came to his house. This makes Keed ask if she can come into his house, but Yuya decides to politely decline, aware of the bear-sized men inside, whose gazes alone are enough to make her faint. Before he gets a chance to say something, Tekashi ends up appearing in front of them, asking Yuya to make Keed leave. Yuya begins to panic as he was going to handle it on his own when suddenly, one of Tekashi's men ends up recognizing Keed, commenting on how she's even hotter in person. This makes Tekashi question if they know that girl, and they let him know that Keed was chosen as the prettiest schoolgirl in Japan. Keed then tells Tekashi that she wanted to speak to him and calls him the lieutenant of the Haratsu Syndicate. This shocks every single one of them, including Yuya, who can't understand how she knows Tekashi's affiliation with the syndicate. Before long, Tekashi begins to get furious, forcing Yuya to remind him not to make scary faces, as he always used to scare the kids with that ogre-resembling face. However, Tekashi lets Yuya know that it's different this time and asks Keed how she knows who he is. Keed smiles and, after introducing herself, says that she doesn't mind him not remembering her, as he would have forgotten her right away. Enraged, Tekashi asks if she takes him for a fool, and Keed replies by calling him a simple-minded baboon for scaring her with an intimidating act. But she quickly takes her statement back, saying that it would be rude to the primates by comparing them to him. At this point, Yuya can't figure out why she's roasting him with a smile on her face. Soon after, Tekashi begins laughing and lets Keed know that she would have been severely punished if she weren't someone Yuuya knew. While he decides to give Keed a pass for now, Yuuya is aware that Tekashi is not as tough as he looks. Seeing his expressions makes Tekashi ask Yuuya if he is taking him for a fool too, causing Yuuya to wonder if it showed on his face. Nonetheless, Tekashi tells Keed that she hasn't answered his question and once again asks who she is. Keed replies, saying the name Hitotsuba Yuikairu and that it should sound familiar to him. Sweat starts dripping down Takashi's face, and he asks Keed if the chief of the National Police Agency is her father. However, Keed disagrees, telling Tekashi that it's her uncle, but he dotes her the same way her father does so if she were to ask him for a favor. He'd even abuse his authority to make it happen. When Tekashi asks what she intends to do with them, Keed asks him to never lay his hands on Yuuya and agrees to pay the whole debt at a later date. Now, Yuuya is starting to get even more confused as he can't figure out if her uncle is a big shot in the police agency and if she's intending to pay off his debt. Just then, another person arrives, telling Keed not to go ahead and introduces herself as Sakurako, Keed's mother, who also turns out to be a lawyer. Following that, Sakurako tells Tekashi that he seems to have gotten himself into quite the risky business. Meanwhile, Yuuya realizes how Sakurako's looks gentle, but her voice is sharp as a sword. It is as if no one could escape from the hidden sword, and even though Yuuya is not her target, he can feel that crushing sense of oppression. Tekashi asks what's that supposed to mean and explains that he's only trying to take back what they have lent. Yuuya starts to notice that Tekashi's regained his composure, but quickly realizes that he's only putting up a bold front. Sakurako lets him know that the money-lending business he is in is pretty much illegal, to which Tekashi replies that if he were to get scared from big talks, he wouldn't be in this business in the first place. After taking a short pause, Sakurako begins imitating Tekashi's daughter, saying that he has such a cute daughter. Furthermore, she mentions that Tekashi always gives her daughter a kiss on the cheek while giving his wife on the lips, along with the fact that it's a bit daring to do so much in front of his daughter. Keed also adds, wondering what his daughter will grow up thinking if he keeps kissing in front of her. At this point, Yuuya figures out that this mother-daughter duo is pretty scary. However, they don't stop and mention the fact that Tekashi has described his occupation as a typical salaryman to his wife, causing Tekashi to argue that this has nothing to do with his wife or kid. Sakurako agrees, saying that the debt left behind is for his father to pay and Yuuya is not responsible for it. However, what Yuuya believes is that he should take care of the trouble his parents caused and that he really looks up to Tekashi as if he's his actual brother. Sakurako further mentions that this might not sit well with Tekashi's boss and suggests making a deal. After reading the letter she handed to him, Tekashi gets shocked and questions if she's in her right mind, wondering if Sakurako is really a lawyer, and she agrees, telling him that she's an ordinary lawyer with a rich employer. Eventually, Tekashi decides to agree to her terms and promises never to lay a hand on Yuuya. However, Yuuya, not knowing what's going on, is still confused if the contents of that envelope are going to pay off his 30 million yen debt. With that being said, Sakurako mentions that it's now confirmed that the debt is fully paid, while all Yuuya can think of is if his father knows Sakurako as well. Tekashi agrees, saying that the amount has been paid and tells Yuuya that he's glad as now he can live a straight and honest life. Yuuya agrees but asks Tekashi about the situation as he's having trouble following the conversation. Just then, Keed grabs his hands and promises to explain the situation later, reassuring him that there's not a single demerit for him. Sakurako agrees, suggesting letting the youngsters talk it out and invites Tekashi to have some tea with her, but he refuses, saying that it will bring him nothing but trouble. Before he leaves, Tekashi tells Yuuya that this is the end of their relationship, asking him to take care, even though Tekashi tries to act tough. Yuuya already knows where he lives, and his wife even invited Yuuya to their home the other day. Simultaneously, Sakurako tells Keed that she'll let her handle the rest, and before walking out, apologizes to Yuuya for startling him, mentioning that his father told her to completely get rid of his debt. Even though things won't be the same as before, he can still live a normal life. After Sakurako leaves, Yuuya notices that Keed is shaking harder than the ground when your mother falls. But at first, she tries to play it cool, only to later reveal how nerve-wracking it was for her to confront those scary men. Realizing that she was indeed scared of Tekashi, Yuuya gently holds her hand and asks her to rest in the living room while he makes some tea. Keed agrees and mentions that even though the debt is paid, there's a condition. Before Yuuya can even ask anything, Keed lets him know that he has to live with her from now on. Yuuya instantly agrees, only to later realize what she said and how messed up it sounds. Not only that, but he is sure that all the degenerates of his school would tear his limbs apart. She then agrees to explain everything in detail, suggesting going to the living room. This makes Yuuya think about how she called him with a perfect smile, but the only flaw was her legs trembling with fear. After they arrive in the living room, Keed mentions that everything can be summarized in a few words and lets him know that he has to become her property. Even though Yuuya understands what she said, he confronts her for not explaining anything in detail, to which Keed replies that she thought a long explanation would be pointless. However, Yuuya argues that it's not good enough and tells her not to treat him like a pet she just bought. To his surprise, she seems to like the word pet and lets Yuuya know that he will be her pet from today onwards. This makes him figure that she has no intention of explaining anything and completely ignores what he says. Not only that, but she's chuckling while blushing as she's lost in her own fantasy. Eventually, she apologizes, saying that she was having a bit too much fun, and asks Yuuya where they left off their conversation. After being reminded that they were talking about him becoming Keed's property, she explains that it's because his father came begging in tears to her mother. Turns out his father and Keed's mother went to the same school, but lost contact after they graduated. That is until a month ago. He contacted Keed's mother and asked for her help. At first, Sakurako was going to refuse, as no matter how good their relationship was, it was his own actions that put him in that situation. Hearing this makes Yuuya a bit frustrated, and he makes up his mind to beat his pops the moment he returns home. Furthermore, Keed mentions that his dad told her mother to at least save his son, adding the fact that Yuuya did nothing wrong and that he doesn't want to ruin his future. But still, Sakurako had no reason to agree, and if anything, this made her even more furious. Yuuya figures that this must be the case as to Sakurako. He's just a random boy and the son of a brokey. Keed then adds, saying that he must be wondering why her mother decided to help, and lets him know that it is because she selfishly asked for it. However, Yuuya doesn't seem to understand this point and asks if this is somehow related to helping his father, and Keed replies that she has always been an obedient girl who never once acted selfishly. This is why her parents and grandparents were overjoyed after she asked for something selfish for the first time. While Yuuya thinks how her parents must lack brain cells to get overjoyed over their daughter being selfish, Keed lets him know that she had two requests. The first one was to help Yuuya, and as he had done nothing wrong, while she doesn't really seem to care about his parents. Even though Yuuya has his doubts, he is really happy at the same time over the fact that someone cares for a midnight accident like him. Following that, she informs that her second request is why he became her property. Apparently, no matter what, she wishes to live with him. At this point, Yuuya gives up as he understands it even less now and asks why she told her parents that she wanted to live with him while skipping steps like confessing and proposing. Keed replies that it's because she wants to be with him, and this statement turns out to be a little more than Yuuya could handle, as he is well aware that these kinds of words coming from a goth mommy like Keed could bring any man down. Nonetheless, Keed continues and tells Yuuya that everyone was excited over her first love, and while her father prepared the check, her mother contacted his father. Afterward, she hands him an envelope, and seeing that it's a written pledge, Yuuya begins reading. Apparently, it's from his parents, who approve of Yuuya living with Keed, along with approving Yuuya to be registered and adopted into Keed's household after he turns 18. Not only that, but after the commencement of the cohabitation, his parents will be banned from contacting Yuuya ever again. At this point, Yuuya can't believe that not only he'll be living with Keed, but after graduating, they'll be getting married as well. Furthermore, even his parents approved of this, as it's been properly signed by the both of them. After he's done reading, Keed tells him not to worry, as she'll be becoming his sugar mommy, but if he starts feeling bad for her, Yuuya will be allowed to work at her father's side and eventually become the president of the Hidatsuba group. At this point, Yuuya can believe that Keed's parents are letting her marry a waste of space like him, and even considering making him the next company president. Following that, Keed lets him know that both their parents have given their approval, saying that Yuuya does not have the right to refuse, and asking if he knows what will happen if he tries to resist. However, Yuuya seems to have a general idea and figures that he might be forced to work like a slave or be sent underground, never to see the light of the day ever again. In the end, Keed explains that he'll be forced to become her exclusive butler for the rest of his life, and if he becomes a butler, kissing Keed or clapping her would be out of the question. But in Yuuya's eyes, this is a different kind of hell for him, and not only that, but he is also shocked to hear such words coming out of her mouth. Additionally, he can tell that Keed is forcing herself given how red she is. Eventually, he suggests the idea of a forbidden love between a lady and her butler, but gets told that it's not allowed as according to Keed. The idea of pure love sounds much better. Seeing her expressions reminds Yuuya that even at school, Keed is a perfect, impeccable beauty like an unapproachable flower. Furthermore, this might be her real form, and if that is true, this would make Yuuya one of the few boys who knows the real Keed. Ultimately, Yuuya ends up accepting the conditions and lets her know that he wasn't trying to refuse in the first place, as this proposal is like a godsend. The fact that he gets to marry Keed is like a dream for someone like him. After saying all that, Yuuya thinks to himself that it's fine as he'd get to marry such a chick and become the next company president, thinking that it's not like he'll be lonely. Just then, Keed begins to panic and asks if he's hurting somewhere, and when he lets her know that he's perfectly fine, Keed questions the reason he's crying. This comes as a surprise to Yuuya as he wasn't aware that he's crying and wonders why the tears aren't stopping, even though he's now free from his stupid parents. But before he can overthink this any longer, Keed ends up giving him a hug, letting him know that it's alright because she's with him and always will be. This causes Yuuya to hug her back, and she comments that he must feel lonely considering the fact that he's suddenly alone now and advises him to be just as happy from now on. With that being said, Keed tells Yuuya to get to packing, as they'll be demolishing the house. Confused, Yuuya asks if this house will be gone, to which Keed replies that a new house will be built and rented out. Furthermore, she reassures him that their love nest is fine as she already prepared it and suggests going shopping as tomorrow they have a day off. Meanwhile, Yuuya can't believe what's going on and figures that his father's blood is flowing inside him too, the way he made this life-changing decision in the spur of the moment. Afterward, Keed informs him about the Hidetsuba Electrical Appliances Company, which will be celebrating its 100th anniversary this year. They don't only make appliances but venture in other areas such as renovation services and electric vehicles. All in all, their business is expanding on a global scale, and Keed's father is the fourth generation to lead it. Later, Yuuya will be going to be following in his footsteps and gets told by Keed to be prepared. Even though Yuuya understands that he needs to be diligent every day if he needs to stand out in society, but asking a school student to become the next company president is a bit too much. Additionally, she suggests Yuuya enters a university after graduation, and when he argues that working at her father's place would be better, she lets him know that wasting time on a part-time job is useless, and he should be spending time by her father's side and learning various stuff. Apparently, the thing that's bugging him the most is that Keed is making all the decisions even though he's aware that he needs to do that. Furthermore, Keed asks him to focus on her milk balloons instead, as that way, she can see how hard-working he is and will make sure to meet every expectation no matter how freaky his fetishes might be. But the only thing she wants in return is for Yuuya to not shove his sausage anywhere else. Eventually, he agrees and asks Keed the reason she's helping him, as they both don't really know each other. Keed agrees, saying that they barely talked at school before, but she has been watching him this whole time. She then mentions his after-school soccer club practice, letting him know that she saw him kicking the ball alone, even when everyone had gone home. He stayed persistent day after day, and the expression on Yuuya's face that Keed saw during this time was one he didn't used to show often. The first thing she thought was that Yuuya was different from her and could put his heart into something and give it his all. Before he knew it, Yuuya stole her attention, and from that day, she was always rooting for him and praying for his hard work to be rewarded, but sadly, her prayers were ignored just like you ignore WinRAR's subscription request. This reminds Yuuya that he always dreamt of making it to the nationals, but in the end, his team was eliminated from the tournament and his daily practice didn't bear fruit. Keed then adds that Yuuya still didn't lose hope from that defeat and was back at it the next day. This made her think of Yuuya as an amazing person for not giving in to despair, and her heart became glued to him. After hearing it all, Yuuya lets her know that he's not that splendid of a person, but whatever he says, Keed has already fallen in love with how he puts his heart into the things he does. Besides, she is prepared to take any measures to make him hers and make sure he'll only look her way. Yuuya begins thinking that even though Keed was chosen as the cutest schoolgirl, she still fell in love with a boy kicking the ball like an idiot every day. While Keed has been watching him and even fell in love, he doesn't know anything about her. And if he were asked whether he likes her or not, Yuuya is sure that his answer would be that he isn't sure right now. Following that, Yuuya tells Keed that he's happy to receive a confession from a girl like her. But he still doesn't know much about her, which is why he cannot respond to her feelings right now. To his surprise, Keed seems fine with this and mentions that it's just as expected of her first love target. Apart from her outward appearance, he doesn't know much about her, and from that answer alone, her favorability for Yuuya has skyrocketed. He agrees with her and thinks that one cannot fall in love with a person they don't know, and figures that his criteria are whether he'll have fun being with them and whether they will stay with an average Joe like him. With that being said, Keed lets him know that her strategy of removing the obstacles has been a success and tells Yuuya that she will make him say that he likes her and have him give her a kiss. Not only that, but she plans to pin him down and rip his shirt off like Superman during an emergency. Hearing this statement has ruined the image of Keed Yuuya has in mind, and mentions that she has quite the gap in the way she acts at school and at home. This causes Keed to point her finger at Yuuya, letting him know that everyone wears a mask and that applies to him as well. Whether it's consciously or not, the Yuuya in front of her and the Yuuya playing football are different people. Furthermore, she asks which one of her acts he thinks is her true self, and even after comparing the cute Keed at school with the freaky Keed at home, he can't draw a conclusion and mentions that it's fine to gradually understand each other. Luckily, Keed agrees with his words and says that she wants to know more about Yuuya as well. For example, the kind of food he likes and whether he lives by the motto, the bustier, the better. But before she announces all the lewd things in her mind, Yuuya tells her to stop, suggesting leaving it for later and getting to know each other a bit more first. At this point, Yuuya is exhausted due to Keed dropping a bomb when he was defenseless, and the way she says it all with a flushed face makes it even more dangerous because of her cuteness. Nonetheless, Keed says this should be enough joking around and suggests getting to pack their stuff. This makes Yuuya wonder where they will be moving to and gets told that they will be going to their love nest. Before long, Yuuya finds himself in a luxurious car, sitting next to the owner of the car who called the driver to pick them up. He can't help but notice how Keed's face has changed completely from just a while ago, but he's too embarrassed to say it out loud. Eventually, he asks Keed about the place they are headed to, and she replies that they are moving into their love nest, reassuring him that her dad made sure they got the best room. Yuuya mentions that he's not doubting her and makes sure that she's not going to call it all a lie in the end, which ends up confusing Keed, and her cute head tilt makes Yuuya give up. Furthermore, he notices that they are in the popular Bay Area and remembers that there are a lot of luxury first-class hotels nearby. He figures that it should be beyond out of place for school students to live there, causing Keed to praise him for being well-informed. This reminds Yuuya that his father was always too busy gooning over third-rate actresses, due to which he had to read up on stuff during breaks. Keed adds that if he knows this much at this stage, she's sure that he'll benefit a lot under her dad, and reassures Yuuya that she believes in him. Hearing this statement makes Yuuya blush, making Keed laugh and mention how cute he looks when he's blushing. Eventually, they arrive at their destination, which turns out to be a building as tall as Yuuya's morning wood. He instantly realizes that this is one of the high-class condos he was talking about and can't believe a peasant like him will be living there with Keed. Without wasting any time, she locks arms with him and suggests going inside. Meanwhile, all Yuuya can think about is him trying his best not to faint due to Keed being so close, along with the fact that he was denied taking his own bag by the driver who didn't want to lose his job. During the elevator ride, Yuuya makes sure to glance at the baddie he'll be pumping really soon. Before long, the elevator door opens, and they arrive in the hallway that leads to their condo. With that being said, Yuuya opens the door and seeing pure luxury in front of him for the first time, he can't help but be shocked. When Keed asks if he likes it, Yuuya questions if they are really going to live there, saying that she must be kidding. However, Keed replies that this is reality, but it'll be okay as she's good at cooking and will make him whatever he wants. Little does she know that Yuuya can cook as well, and suggests taking turns, as it's not good to leave everything on just one of them. Following that, he notices that the living and dining room are almost the size of 30 tatami mats. Not only that, but the dining table chairs have a calming design. The sofa seems too large for just 2 people, and the TV is pretty huge as well. What makes it all better is the elegant and glittering night view of the bay from the large windows. Soon after, his imagination goes wild, and he begins thinking of popping her cherries with their backs to the view, only to regret having such thoughts. When Keed asks if he's okay, Yuuya reassures her that he wasn't having any strange thoughts, suggesting getting to know each other better, and before that, any bedroom action is a no-no. With a smile on her face, Keed calls him a strange person and mentions that she also likes that he tries to be such a gentleman. However, he doesn't seem to appreciate the compliments as he's sure he'll lose sleep when he ends up not living up to her expectations. With that being said, Keed decides to have dinner when suddenly, the doorbell rings. Surprisingly, it's the driver who brought their bags along with a few boxes of pizza. While Keed asks Yuuya to eat it before it gets cold, he begins to wonder if the driver went to get it for them. Following that, Keed thanks the driver, calling him Miyamoto, and invites him to eat with them, but he refuses, saying that he doesn't want to be a third wheel. Afterward, Miyamoto walks away and leaves a solid impression on Yuuya, who thinks that Miyamoto is truly an elderly gentleman. Keed then informs Yuuya that Miyamoto has been with them since her grandfather's time, and he's just like family to her, but he makes sure to draw boundaries in that regard. Nonetheless, Keed suggests eating the pizza, making Yuuya realize that she must have ordered it while he was packing and finds it surprising for a beauty like her to eat junk food. Keed then mentions that he now knows one more thing about her, to which he agrees, deciding not to judge a book by its cover. Following that, she hopes that the two of them get along and hands him a can of Coke. Without thinking much, he takes the can and opens it, only for the can to spray more liquid than girls in lewd anime. As expected, she begins laughing and Yuuya learns that despite her appearance, Keed is a pretty good prankster. After they are done eating, Yuuya decides to take a bath and asks Keed if it's okay, to which she agrees, saying that gas, electricity and water are all available so it should be fine. With that being said, Yuuya decides to explore the house a bit before heading to the bathroom, and after he's done checking all the rooms, the bedroom ends up catching his attention. Apparently, there's only a single king-sized bed with 2 pillows which looks exactly like the bedroom for a lovey-dovey couple. This makes him wonder if he'll be forced to sleep with Keed there, and decides to think about it later and take a bath for now. Soon after, he enters the bathroom and notices that it's surprisingly large. As expected from the degenerate, the image of him bathing with Keed enters his mind, causing his little bro to get excited, making Yuuya realize that he's feeling things he shouldn't be feeling right now. However, he's aware that it's a matter of time before he loses control and spreads his cream sauce. Suddenly, Keed appears behind him, saying that she wouldn't mind if some mistakes were to happen, saying that she'd actually welcome it wholeheartedly. Seeing her standing behind him, Yuuya notices that her legs are shaking and figures that she might be nervous. Nonetheless, he replies that he doesn't forcibly do things to girls, as one can only do that thing when they're in love with each other. Keed mentions that she's happy Yuuya thinks that way, but also lets him know that she won't take back what she said about her welcoming it. Yuuya begins thinking how she always says stuff that makes his heart skip a beat and figures that he might fall in love with her in no time. Even though he's sure that it might happen someday, he needs to resist those feelings just a little because he wants to know her better. With that being said, she asks if he'll be taking a bath just by himself, to which Yuuya replies that it's meaningless to say such things when she's obviously nervous. Keed begins to panic and says that his eyeballs must be shaking as she's perfectly normal. After that, he sets the temperature for the bath and tells her to watch TV or something as he'll be taking a bath alone. Furthermore, he tells her not to peek no matter what, causing her to get excited and wonder if he's saying that because he wants her to peek and might even want them to bathe together. While she advises him to be more honest with her, Yuuya figures that she doesn't want to listen to what he has to say and tells Keed that normally, she should be the one to tell him not to peek. However, Keed replies that she'd rather welcome it, and he asks her to match her comments with her actions as she's confusing him. In the end, he agrees to peek at her whenever he gets the chance, but asks her not to do the same as he doesn't like being peeped at. Later, he takes his fresh set of clothes from the suitcase and heads towards the bath, realizing that even though the condo has appliances such as TV and a recorder, there are no washing machines or refrigerators. Additionally, there are pots and knives, but no dishes, which is a bit confusing for him. Keed then reminds him that they will be going shopping tomorrow, saying that they'll buy dishes in the morning and then head to the appliance store to buy a washing machine and a refrigerator. While Yuuya understands a man and woman who start living in the same apartment to shop for things together, but is it the same for students like them? Furthermore, he asks why she didn't get it from her father, who's the president of an appliance manufacturer. Keed replies that her dad told her to go shop and make the decision to buy whatever they want by themselves. Yuuya seems to agree with her father's opinion, as for something that he'll be using every day, Yuuya wants to touch and feel it before buying it. Additionally, he thinks that it's kind of fun to choose home appliances, and Keed agrees, suggesting choosing something they both agree on as they'll be living together. Seeing her this happy makes Yuuya think how this all feels like a dream as just moments ago. He was going to be Tekashi's underling because of his father but got saved by Sakurako. But in return, it was decided that he'll live together with Keed and eventually marry her, which is why they moved into a condo and will be going on a date tomorrow. Afterward, she tells him to take the bath, deciding to wash his back, but he ends up flicking her on the forehead, telling Keed not to trick him so casually. He further adds that even if she's fine with it, it's pretty embarrassing for him. After locking the door, he starts chilling in the bathtub, and before long, Keed starts to unlock the door but fails and tells Yuuya that the door won't budge. Annoyed, Yuuya begins to wonder just how long he can endure this before he cracks and starts thinking what he should do about the bedroom problem. After he's done taking a bath, Yuuya sits in the living room and hears Keed inviting him to come take a peek while she's bathing, letting him know that the door is unlocked. Additionally, he had been thinking about the bedroom problem and ultimately concluded that this matter was as complex as world politics. And as Yuuya's no delinquent, he decides to calmly declare that he'll be sleeping on the living room sofa. But as expected, Keed instantly refuses to let him sleep anywhere else, asking why he keeps on insisting on sleeping on the sofa when they have such a fluffy and comfortable bed. Furthermore, she can't believe he wants to live separately under the same room on the first day of living together and lets him know that she's going to cry. Currently, the two of them are sitting on opposite sides of the bed, debating this topic. Yuuya notices that Keed looks really pretty fresh out of the bath and wants to get closer, but is totally aware that he might not be able to control his little mushroom. Additionally, after stealing a glance at the Mount Everest of her chest, he lets Keed know that a man and a woman who aren't in a relationship shouldn't be sleeping in the same bed, adding the fact that no matter how much she's into it, he's not. This gives Keed the idea that Yuuya must be worried that he might attack her, causing him to think why she's saying this with such a happy face. While trying to get away from Keed, he accidentally falls off the bed and asks her not to come any closer, telling her that he might go crazy if she does. Noticing the citrusy smell coming from her, Yuuya wonders if she knew he likes that smell and figures that she might be a tactician better than Kongaming if she did. The combined smell of her shampoo and the body soap is so perfect that if Yuuya were to give in to his impulses, he would hold her pretty tightly. Keed notices the expressions on his face and lets him know that it's okay for him to hug her and smell her like a puppy. Even though it might be a bit embarrassing for her, she'll hold him tight and might even pet him. Eventually, Keed mentions that she's just kidding and tells Yuuya that she can always see right through him and can easily tell his feelings by looking at his face. This makes Yuuya wonder if he's that easy to read and decides not to get into desire easily. Following that, Keed comments that while she was planning to fall asleep while cuddling with him, she's given up for now but wants him to sleep in the same bed, as if he sleeps in the living room, he might catch a cold. She thinks of it as a good choice unless Yuuya has a nursing fetish and suddenly realizes that it's a pretty good scenario as well. This transitions into Keed imagining some pretty wild stuff and laughing while telling Yuuya to take off his clothes so she can wipe off his sweat. Annoyed, Yuuya hits her on the head, and she once again tells him to sleep with her or else she won't forgive him. When he tries to argue, Keed begins leaning towards him with a puffy face, and in the end, Yuuya accepts his defeat and agrees to sleep on the same bed while keeping as much distance as he can. Furthermore, he realizes that it should be alright as he's not a restless sleep or a hugger. However, Keed replies that she's a restless sleeper and a hugger, asking him to forgive her if something happens and gets told that he'd throw her back. Keed mentions that he's kind for not saying that he'd throw her off the bed and lets Yuuya know that this is what she likes about him. Hearing her casually say stuff that makes him blush, Yuuya wonders if the word like is a bit light, to which Keed replies that she only says it to him apart from her family and asks him to never think of it as a light word. Embarrassed, Yuuya decides to go to bed while Keed tells him that she'll go dry her hair and wishes him a good night. Meanwhile, Yuuya is having a hard time sleeping because of how nervous he is, and even the faint sound of the hairdryer feels awfully loud. It stopped after some time and Keed came back carefully so as to not make any noise. Additionally, she fell asleep instantly and Yuuya closed his eyes while listening to her breathe, and before long, he fell asleep as well. Following that, Yuuya has a dream where his parents are standing in front of him, letting him know that this is where they say goodbye and asking him to keep himself well. With that being said, they start walking away, ignoring Yuuya, who's begging them to let him come along. Eventually, he wakes up in a panicked state and realizes that it was just a dream. Afterward, he gets out of bed, still thinking about that dream and how his own parents abandoned him. This reminds him that Keed is the one who saved him, and they ended up living together. Additionally, he thought that he might be with his parents forever, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore. Still thinking about that, he falls to the ground and with tears in his eyes, questions why they didn't take him along. Just as he starts wiping his tears, he hears Keed calling his name and standing behind him, looking worried. However, it turns out to be his imagination, as there's no way Keed would wake up when she's sleeping so well. With that being said, he returns to the bedroom, careful not to make any noise, and notices Keed sleeping peacefully with a smile on her face, but to his surprise, she's currently present on his side of the bed. Realizing that she must be tossing around a bit too much, he decides not to think about it, abandons all the thoughts and sinks his face into the pillow Keed was using. The faint lingering warmth of that pillow begins soothing him and making him realize that he doesn't want to let go of it. After having a nightmare and seeing Keed sleeping so close to him left him pretty nervous, and he wasn't able to go to bed afterward. Feeling heavy-headed due to not getting enough sleep, Yuuya decides to freshen up with a good old hot bath. Following that, he goes and takes a seat on the living room couch, remembering the PS5 and the latest 4K TV present in front of him. However, he decides not to play it alone and wonders how Keed might feel seeing him play all alone. If his live-in partner were to do fun things on their own, he'd most probably feel lonely, and it's possible that she might feel the same way. Realizing that he can't play it when she's around, Yuuya gets up and notices that there's no refrigerator present and wonders what they are going to do about breakfast. Just then, a man older than Adam and Eve themselves appears in front of him, causing Yuuya to question where he came from. Furthermore, he notices 2 bags from a familiar hamburger chain in his hands. Miyamoto lets him know that he brought breakfast for the 2 of them, and Yuuya begins to think that hamburgers this early in the morning must not be light on the stomach. Miyamoto also adds that it's a direct request from Keed, who contacted him last night regarding this matter. Realizing that they had pizza for dinner, and now they'll have a burger for breakfast, he wonders if all Keed eats is junk food. At the same time, he's starting to feel a bit uneasy as Keed told him that she's going to treat him to her cooking. However, Miyamoto reassures him that even though Keed's dish is quite peculiar, he still guarantees the taste. Additionally, he advises Yuuya to eat before it gets cold and asks if he'll be taking a bath first. Just then, the sound of water heating up completely catches their attention, trapping Yuuya in a difficult choice of whether to wake Keed up to eat or take a bath before the water gets cold. Luckily, Miyamoto helps out by letting Yuuya know that Keed is not a morning person, so he should have enough time to take a quick bath before waking her up. With that being said, Yuuya thanks Miyamoto for the help, to which he replies that it's part of his job and tells Yuuya that he'll be accompanying them on their day out today. Following that, Yuuya takes a dip in the hot tub and realizes how wonderful it is to be able to stretch both his legs. The thought of taking a hot bath with a hot chick like Keed enters his mind, making him think that it would be quite amazing. Just then, Keed mentions that it would last a lifetime as they'll be living together forever. Yuuya replies, saying that it would be wonderful, only to realize what's going on and ask Keed why she is in the bathroom with him. He figures that she must be doing this on purpose, to which Keed agrees, saying that she was lonely after not finding him by her side when she woke up and doesn't want to spend even a second longer apart from him, wondering if it's bad, and Yuuya agrees, thinking that his sense of reason is going to evaporate in an instant. Furthermore, Keed mentions that he left the bathroom door unlocked when he had locked it tight just yesterday and questions if he has already fallen in love with her. Additionally, she asks why he is hiding his face, to which Yuuya replies that it's because she is not wearing any clothes at the moment. Despite the towel wrapped around her body, Yuuya can tell the cup size she's rocking and realizes that she actually transcends lewdness by not being completely exposed. Nonetheless, he decides not to look at her, causing Keed to call him innocent, and lets him know that she'd rather have him look. However, even though he wants to take a look, Yuuya is sure that it'll be all over if he does. Keed then reassures Yuuya that she has wrapped the towel tightly around her, as it'll be embarrassing for her to be suddenly exposed in front of him. Ultimately, Yuuya slowly opens his eyes and takes a proper look at Keed while she mentions that she's not exactly without clothes. But Yuuya still thinks that it's not okay and decides not to be in awe of the situation. Additionally, he realizes that the towel may come off when she takes a shower, or it may also come off when she gets in the bathtub. Just then, a thought enters his mind, and he figures that she must be wearing a swimsuit underneath, only wanting to mess around with him. But to his surprise, even though Keed praises him for arriving at that answer, she informs him that she goes beyond that and ends up revealing every single curve of her body. As expected, the coward freaks out and begins breathing heavily, asking why she didn't do as it was expected there. But Keed replies that hanging out bare skin is the best way to understand each other, but according to Yuuya, he'd prefer a night in bed first. Hearing this makes her even more excited, and Keed promises not to let him sleep tonight, only for Yuuya to dash out of the bathroom, making her a little frustrated. Later that day, Keed asks where he wants to go first and mentions that she wants to look at some cutlery and then see the appliances. However, seeing him give her the silent treatment makes her wonder if he's still mad at her for barging into the bathroom, and reassures him that she might not do it again. Furthermore, Keed promises to properly do it in bed next time, asking him to forgive her. In the end, Yuuya decides to forgive her but tells Keed that if she does it again, he won't talk to her for about 3 hours. This makes her smile and tell Yuuya that this is what she likes about him. With that being said, she suggests getting dressed quickly, and even though Miyamoto will pick them up, shopping still takes time and energy. Before long, Yuuya gets dressed up and takes his time fixing his hair, so he can look a little nicer besides a 10 by 10 baddie like her. However, Keed tells him not to worry and just be who he is, as she likes what's inside his heart more. Additionally, it doesn't matter to her what other people say and asks Yuuya not to get worked up. Before long, they appear at the shopping mall, and after buying some cutlery, they have lunch together and then pay a visit to the electronic retail store to buy some appliances. Apparently, Keed remembered seeing a thin, bespectacled clerk on TV and began talking to a similar-looking clerk. Luckily, this clerk didn't care that they were school students and suggested products that would meet their needs. Moreover, the more they listened to that clerk, the more they decided on appliances from Hitotsuba Electric. When it's time to pay, Keed takes out a truckload of bread, shocking the poor lad who can't even count that much. She then mentions that her father entrusted her with funds but told Keed to report what appliances they bought and asks for the clerk's business so she can mention her name. After the clerk with tears in her eyes gives her business card, Keed thanks her, promising to tell her father about her. After they are done, Keed mentions that it took longer than expected and asks Yuuya if they should have dinner at home. He agrees, saying that he can cook something like pasta for the two of them. Surprised, Keed asks if he's going to be cooking, to which Yuuya agrees, saying that even though he's craving for her cooking, he'll have a ton of opportunities in the future. After hearing this statement, Keed gets flustered and grabs his hands, letting him know that she will show her skills to him tomorrow. Back at home, Keed tastes the pasta he made and mentions how good it is, praising him for being a genius. But at the same time, she decides not to lose and tells him to look forward to tomorrow, as she'll be making something he likes. Apparently, she is aware that Yuuya's favorite dish is Hamburg steak, as when it's served in the school cafeteria, he always eats it. Yuuya agrees, saying that she knows a lot, to which he agrees, telling him that she knows from his tastes to his dislikes. Furthermore, she confirms if his current obsession is a fantasy game where the heroine has huge honkers, but Yuuya decides to stay silent. After they are done eating, Keed mentions that she wants to ask him something, and seeing her look so serious, Yuuya plans to answer whatever he can. Relieved, Keed decides to ask freely and questions if he likes women like the heroine in that game who have literal planets on their chest. After a moment of silence, Keed adds that she thinks she has big ones and doesn't seem to be losing compared to everyone else. Before he can even say anything, Keed asks if she's unattractive and reminds him that she was voted the prettiest schoolgirl in Japan. Following that, she begins acting as if she's crying but makes sure to take a quick peek to check Yuuya's reaction. To her surprise, Yuuya replies that she might not know this, but he was one of the people who admired her and always thought that she was a cool person who also had a playful and talkative side. With that being said, he slams his hand on the table, telling Keed that even a girl like that allows someone to do anything with her. A normal person wouldn't be able to stand it. He then takes a look at her, and seeing her staring at him with excitement in her eyes, Yuuya lets Keed know that if she plays too much, he'll seriously attack her. Suddenly, Keed gets closer to Yuuya and tells him that she's okay with it if that person is him. Additionally, she reminds him that she won't be going easy on him once he starts liking her. Curious, Yuuya asks what's it like when she goes all out, to which Keed replies that if she goes all out, she won't let him sleep the entire night. After hearing this sentence, Yuuya pushes her out of the room, shuts the door and hides under the blanket to calm the monstrosity between his legs. The next day, Yuuya is all dripped up, ready for school, and after seeing the time, he decides to wake Keed up. Apparently, last night, Keed suggested going to school together, and when Yuuya told her to repeat what she just said, she told him that it's natural for them to go to school together when they are living under the same roof. However, he told her that it'd be troublesome if they suddenly went to school together. As she is the prettiest schoolgirl in Japan, her coming to school with a guy would surely cause mass panic. But Keed doesn't seem to think of it as a problem, as they have been living together, and mentions that she'd rather take this as a chance to show off. When Yuuya questions about what she wants to show off, Keed replies that she's going to show off to everyone that Yuuya is her boyfriend and that she won't be giving him away to anyone. Embarrassed, Yuuya starts looking away, causing Keed to tease him for blushing again. Once again, Yuuya buries himself under the blanket, telling her that he won't go to school with her. Furthermore, he wishes her luck if she wishes to go to school with him, as he won't be waking her up in the morning. Keed begins to panic and starts calling him a demon, reminding Yuuya that she is not a morning person. But Yuuya doesn't seem to care and wishes her luck waking up by herself. Back in the present, Yuuya realizes that he got up so early because he didn't want to go to school with her, but at the same time, is aware that she would be late if he doesn't wake her up. But to his surprise, she already seems to be awake, and Yuuya lets her know that she would be late if she doesn't get up soon. Unexpectedly, Keed puts her hands towards Yuuya, telling him to undress her so she can get changed. As expected, the virgin boy freaks out and tries to pull away, but Keed instantly grabs his sleeves, causing him to wonder how she could be faster than him when she's not even fully awake. Once again, Keed begins pressuring him to undress her and gaslights him by saying that if he doesn't help her get changed, she would end up being late. However, Yuuya is aware that she's doing it on purpose, as her eyes now seem to be shining brightly, along with the fact that she has a grin on her face. Even though he doesn't mind her teasing, Yuuya is aware that he might not be able to hold back and decides to pay her back double. With that being said, he agrees to help and asks her to throw her hands up as he'll be undressing her. While Keed is surprised by his forwardness, she throws her hands up, waiting for him to undress her. After taking a deep breath, Yuuya decides to just get it over with by taking off her clothes and quickly turning around. But after taking off her clothes, Yuuya can't seem to believe his eyes and begins to panic, as all he sees is a busty chick with jugs bigger than his face in front of him. Before he even gets the chance to react, Keed instantly gives him a hug and questions how long he will keep staring at her. Yuuya replies by asking why she isn't wearing any undergarments and wonders if he took them off with her pajamas. But Keed lets him know that she didn't wear it at night, while Yuuya regrets taking off her clothes, as he wouldn't have if he had known. Following that, Keed asks if he is surprised, to which he agrees, saying that he couldn't have been more surprised. After that, he lifts her face up and reminds Keed that if she goes too far, he might eat her up. With a beet red face, Keed agrees, causing Yuuya to realize that this trick worked. Then, he lets Keed know that he'll be going, advising her not to be late, and she agrees, still confused about what just happened. Meanwhile, after getting out of the room, Yuuya realizes that even though he was putting up a front any further, and he could have taken out that Excalibur. Soon after, he's on his way to school when someone pats his back and mentions that he looks more tired than usual, asking if something happened. Apparently, his name is Shinji, one of Yuuya's close friends who plays for the same soccer team as Yuuya. Shinji is popular among girls, but rejected them all to go out with someone he fell in love with at first sight. Now, they have become a super famous couple from their school. Just then, another person appears, telling Yuuya that he's got a smirk on his face despite being tired, asking if something good happened. Her name is AI, and she's Yuuya's other close friend. She's also the ace of their school's basketball team, and due to her beautiful appearance combined with her facial features, she has gained immense popularity among girls. Even from Yuuya's point of view, Ai's pretty handsome, who's also a prodigy with top grades. After greeting her, Yuuya mentions that he's pretty exhausted, causing her to tell Yuuya not to be like this or she might get depressed as well. After arriving in class, Yuuya notices AI reading a book and questions about what she's reading. AI lets him know that it's the latest Playboy magazine that's interesting no matter how many times she reads it. Apparently, the two of them became friends because she was reading his favorite light novel the first time they met and got along, as they like similar stuff. Suddenly, Shinji appears and asks the reason he's so mentally exhausted. This results in Yuuya asking the two of them about the person Keed is. Surprised by this odd question, they wonder why he's asking them about her when he should know enough. Nonetheless, AI mentions that Keed is a flawless girl who not only gets good grades but is also pretty athletic. She further adds that many major production companies approached her during the beauty contest, but she rejected them all because all Keed wanted was to become a normal wife. AI wishes that she could say something like that, and when Yuuya tries mocking her by saying that she's more of a husband type, she glares at him like there's no tomorrow. Afterward, Shinji wonders what he should say as AI already covered everything and remembers that she's really popular as many upperclassmen confessed to her, but she rejected all of them. Additionally, she even said that there's someone in her mind, causing Shinji to be jealous of that lucky dog. This whole conversation makes AI question if Yuuya thinks of himself as the right man for Keed, letting him know that it isn't good to be this overconfident. However, he refuses, saying that she is way out of his league. Just then, AI slaps his back and tells him to focus on the girls close to him instead of girls far up in the clouds, as no boy in this school is enough for Keed. Before long, lunch break arrives, and to Yuuya's surprise, a girl with melons covering half of her body appears, asking Yuuya if Keed confessed to him. Surprised, Yuuya asks Akiho who told her that, to which she replies that it was Keed who mentioned that she was going to confess her feelings to Yuuya. However, when Akiho asked her about the results, she laughed the matter away. As expected, all the losers of his class begin staring at Yuuya when suddenly, Shinju taps Akiho on the head, telling her to be aware of her surroundings and letting her know that Yuuya's face has gone white. But when Akiho asks Shinji if he wants to know, he agrees and figures this was the reason Yuuya asked about Keed in the morning. Curious, Akiho begins shaking Shinji, asking what Yuuya asked him, while Yuuya thinks about Akiho being the girl Shinju fell in love with and his current pounding partner. Yuuya then confronts her for dropping a bomb and starting to act innocent afterward. But Akiho replies that she doesn't want to hear it from someone who's the main cause of Keed having the happiest face she's ever seen. This makes Shinji mention that he wants to see Keed's happy face as well, and Akiho reassures him that she took the perfect picture. She then starts teasing Yuuya, asking if he wants to see it as well. Even though he's really curious about the picture, he wants to hold himself off as it feels like admitting defeat. Following that, AI asks Yuuya if it's true that Keed confessed her feelings to him, but before he can even reply, Akiho begins teasing him again about the picture she took. Having no other choice, he signals Shinji to make her girlfriend shut up, while also thinking that he'd love to see Keed's dreamy look. Suddenly, Keed appears, telling Yuuya that she's prepared to devote herself to him and even allowing him to see her dreamy look after enjoying her body tonight. Without thinking much, Yuuya replies that she shouldn't say stuff like that at school, only to later notice that she's standing right in front of him with a big smile on her face. He instantly freaks out seeing her in his class, and Keed lets him know that she just came to meet her boyfriend because she was feeling lonely. Yuuya reminds her that he's not her boyfriend as he has not responded to her feelings, adding the fact that he actually likes girls who have a sense of shame. Nonetheless, she completely ignores him and takes out their lunch, suggesting they eat together. Shinji also agrees, telling Yuuya that the lunch break will be over if he keeps wasting his time. With that being said, the lovebirds walk away and Keed tells Yuuya to hurry up to the cafeteria, as if there's no seat for him, she'd force him to sit on her lap. Just as Yuuya is about to leave the class, AI calls out his name, saying that his blue lunchbox and Keed's pink lunchbox seem to be matching. But when Yuuya decides to remain silent, AI takes his silence as confirmation and starts walking out of class, letting Yuuya know that she would be joining them as well, to which Yuuya hesitantly agrees. After she walks out of the class, Keed appears with a puffy face, calling him a cheater. Later in the cafeteria, Akiho gets shocked to see how good the hamburg steak looks and starts praising Keed for making such a perfect dish. Unexpectedly, AI tells Yuuya that she wants to eat that hamburg steak as well, which makes him think how he can't read AI's mind at all. He is aware that there's a difference between Keed giving it to Akiho and him giving it to AI. She further adds, asking Yuuya why he's worried as she's not asking him to feed her or anything, and ends up grabbing his arm, wanting him to hand over his chopsticks. However, Yuuya is aware that if she eats with his chopsticks, that will mean they'd have an indirect kiss. But at the same time, he knows that he shouldn't be getting worked up over something like this at his age. Before he can do anything, Keed calls out Ai's name and tells her to have her hamburg steak instead, as they both are the same. After a moment of silence, AI ends up taking a bite and gets shocked by how good it tastes. Following that, Keed confronts Yuuya for being very close to AI, asking about the kind of relationship he has with her. AI reassures her that they are just classmates who sit next to each other, causing an intense stare-off between the two. Yuuya also agrees with them only being classmates, but gets interrupted by AI who questions why their matching lunchboxes have the exact same contents inside. While Yuuya begins to hesitate, Keed proudly announces that their lunchboxes Yuuya made with loving care. Furthermore, Yuuya reassures AI that he just stuffed them with yesterday's leftovers. However, she seems more curious about the fact that Keed made the Hamburg steak while Yuuya is the one who packed it. At this point, Yuuya is aware that he shot himself in the foot, but before he gets the chance to say anything, Keed lets everyone know that the two of them are living together, catching everyone by surprise except for AI who lets Yuuya know that he has a ton of explanation to do. After school, Yuuya is busy playing football and today for some reason, everyone seems to be fired up. During break, Yuuya mentions that the senpais are too fired up and figures that it's because Keed is watching them play. As soon as their eyes meet, she begins cheering for him, causing him to receive deadly glares from his teammates. Shinji comments on how tough it is being loved by the prettiest schoolgirl, to which Yuuya replies that she's not his girlfriend. However, Shinji mentions that the two of them are already living together and advises him to be more honest about his feelings. Apparently, during the lunch break, Yuuya explained everything to everyone using a made-up story about how his parents were in debt and how he was caught up in the mess when Tekashi came to collect the money. Just then, his father's lawyer came in clutch to save him, but he had to give up the house to pay off the debt. But as his parents had disappeared, Sakurako offered to stay at their place until his parents returned. However, Keed wasn't very happy about her mother getting the credit when she begged for it and started demanding a rewrite of the story. Turns out Sakurako advised him to lie with some sprinkle of truth, and to his surprise, it worked as everyone seemed to believe the story and Keed was the only one unhappy. After that, AI asked if the two of them are not dating even after living under the same roof, and when Yuuya agreed, she kept her mouth shut and was quiet all afternoon. Back in the present, Yuuya asks Shinji why he isn't defending, to which he replies that everyone is determined to impress Keed, so they are defending without needing his help. He further suggests making Keed the manager of their club, as this way they might even win the nationals, but Yuuya replies that he won't be able to relax this way. With that being said, Yuuya suggests scoring some points now, and Shinji agrees as he also wants to show Keed how cool they are. As expected, Keed kept on cheering, making him wonder why she's so active today, but at the same time, he doesn't mind being cheered on. Before long, he manages to score a goal, and once again, Keed yells, telling Yuuya that he's pretty cool, making Shinji tease him for being so loved. Later that night, Yuuya comes out after taking a bath and notices Keed doing a plank. Even though she seems to be sweating a lot, Keed makes sure to hold her position, causing Yuuya to get impressed. After that video that she's watching ends, Keed takes a sigh of relief, saying that her quota for today is over. Yuuya offers her some water, complimenting her workout session, and she comments on how water after workout hits differently, only to later realize that he had been standing there, watching her the whole time. Following that, he praises her for doing a great job and mentions that he does planks in his club, which is why he's aware of how difficult it is. Keed lets him know that it's part of her daily routine, and he figures that her constant effort is the key to being voted the prettiest schoolgirl in Japan. But at the same time, he's sure that she must be doing a lot more than planks, but to his surprise, Keed refuses to tell him, saying that it's a secret. While he can't figure out why she's not telling him, Yuuya decides not to make a big deal out of it. Keed further mentions that secrets are what make girls beautiful, and even if the person is Yuuya, she still can't tell him. Just then, she gets an idea and asks Yuuya to take a bath with her so he can wash her back, but gets instantly rejected. Later at school, Yuuya calls out Ai's name while Shinji and the whole class watches him in shock. AI lets him know that it's her homemade lunch, though she just stuffed it with leftovers. As expected, all the maidenless loners begin envying Yuuya, wishing they could eat that lunch as well, but Yuuya makes sure to ignore them all. But AI wastes all his efforts by waving at his fans, letting him know that it's kind of a service. Afterward, he questions the reason she made lunch for him, as it's pretty unusual for her, to which AI replies that she did it to annoy him. Simultaneously, Keed arrives with lunch boxes in her arm, suggesting having lunch together, but after seeing lunch already present on his desk, she begins to sulk. Before she even gets the chance to question Yuuya, AI lets her know that she was one step too late. Furious, Keed realizes that this was careless of her, and if this is the case, they should have come to school together this morning. However, Yuuya is aware that they couldn't have, as she slept in even later than usual today. He wonders if she really thought he wouldn't notice her sneaking out of bed and doing whatever she did in the kitchen. But at the same time, he feels guilty as she was almost late because of that, which is why he doesn't want her to try too hard. Back in the present, Keed, with tears in her eyes, tells him to eat the lunch she made, but at the same time, AI mentions that she gave it to him first, so it's only fair that he eats her lunch. Just then, Ekiho appears as well, saying that she's heard it all, completely unaware that she is the last person Yuuya wants to see right now. Following that, she advises them to instead have Yuuya eat one after another. They should have him judge which lunch is better. To Yuuya's surprise, both the girls seem to like this idea and mention that it's a fair solution. With that being said, it is finally time to go Gordon Ramsay on the baddies. Keed is the first one to offer her lunch, and after she presents it, Akiho gets shocked as she notices the legendary duo of Karaj and Tamagoyaki in the lunchbox. Yuuya wonders if this is a coincidence and eventually takes a bite. Keed instantly asks if he likes it, to which he agrees, saying that it tastes good and asks if she did something special. Keed praises him for noticing and mentions that she tosses the bonito flakes into the meat before frying. But just as he begins to wonder where she learned such a recipe, Keed mentions that it's a secret. After he's done eating, AI presents her dish, which turns out to be the same thing that Keed made. Without wasting any time, Yuuya takes a bite and gets shocked. Even though it tastes good, it is something he has never had before. AI lets him know that she used miso for the seasoning, but Yuuya still thinks that she added something extra. Apparently, AI added some sesame oil as well, and at this point, it is hard for Yuuya to tell which is better. Afterward, he decides to taste the eggs, and after taking a bite, drops the chopsticks. AI figures that it tastes bad and mentions that she made them with the seasoning Yuuya likes. However, he tells her not to worry as it tastes really good, making him realize that she remembered something he talked about a long time ago. Now that lunch break is coming to an end, Akiho asks Yuuya if he has come to a conclusion, to which he agrees. With that being said, Akiho asks Yuuya about his choice, and he announces that AI is the winner. Back at home, Keed asks Yuuya why he chose Ai's lunch over his, asking if it was really that delicious. Yuuya understands why she seems to be in a bad mood and explains that the reason is the fried eggs. Yuuya further adds that Keed's eggs were great as he could taste the broth, which seemed like something you'd get in a traditional Japanese restaurant. But on the other hand, Ai's fried eggs tasted pretty sweet, and they were just like the fried eggs his mom used to make. But this was only possible because AI knew what he liked, as they've talked about it before. This is the only reason he chose Ai's lunch, as if it wasn't for that, Keed would have been the winner. Even though Keed understands, she mentions that there's another reason she's sulking. Furthermore, she gives 20 points to the lunch and 80 to this other issue to let him know how important it is. When he inquires about it, Keed questions why he adds San after her name and not with Ai's name. She feels like there's a wall between them because he addresses her with San at the end and would like him to call her by her first name without a suffix. Additionally, she wonders why he calls AI without the suffix and whether there's a reason behind it. Yuuya replies that the two of them started talking to each other due to similar interests, and before he knew it, AI started calling his name with a suffix, and naturally, he started doing the same. This makes Keed mention that she wants to get emotionally closer to him as well, and even though it might not look like it, she's pushing herself to call him by his first name. Which is why she wants him to call her by her first name and asks if it's too much. While she nervously looks at Yuuya, he puts his head down and remains silent. Following that, Keed calls out his name again, and eventually, he gives up, telling Keed that he lost while calling her by her first name. Afterward, he realizes that this is more embarrassing than he thought, as his face is currently boiling. But as soon as he looks at Keed, he notices that her face is redder than the flags your ex carries. Ultimately, she thanks him for making her wish come true, and even though he knows how angelic Keed looks when she's blushing, all Yuuya could do was be embarrassed. How long do you think Yuuya can control himself before giving into Keed's temptations? Comment det if you'd like a part 2 of this series. As usual, thank you for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one.